what you did, but you did it right. Girl, you make it look so easy. Everywhere you go, hands turning left and right. Can't say you a dime, you're a 20-piece. Cause girl, you're all the reason I be acting funny. Everything in me telling that you give it away. And all the guys looking like they wanna love you. Every day I'm your body, got not over my dead body. Why you gotta look so good? Why you gotta look so good? Why you gotta look so good? Put your hair done, nails done. When you put that clothes on, why you gotta look so good, 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 good? With your hair done, nails done. When you put that clothes on, girl, why you gotta look so good? I can look into your not an average chick. You're shutting it down everywhere you go. Girl, I want you as bad as I want a check. Cause you're sexy from head to toe. We need some music to wake us up today. This has been such a cloudy day. It's kind of dreary. But we have a great show for you today. So I am just so excited. Good evening, beautiful people. You are listening to the Voices of Change on an intellectual radio, and my name is Jana, and I'll be your host this evening. I am so fortunate and excited to have my special guest this evening. She is an educator, a leader in her community, and an author. Her current book, Greenhouse Gardening, discusses for a beginner the journey to greenhouse gardening. You see, my dad was a gardener, and growing up, all our vegetables were from the garden. I love every single vegetable. And it was 12 in our family, 10 kids, 2 parents. And we not only had enough food for us, but we also, anybody in the neighborhood who wanted greens, who wanted watermelon, who wanted whatever. His garden was just that much, but it was a huge space, about 1.5 lots. So when I heard about this book, I've always kind of wanted to know about, how do I get to gardening? What I regret is that I never really took it up. I mean, I'd sit out there and talk to him while he's gardening or tilling the land, but I never really wanted to know much about it. I thought it was just too old school. I only wish I would have learned more. I read an article yesterday that said, along with everything else that's going up, vegetables in the grocery store has increased 40%. Now, we all know the benefit of consuming organic fruits and vegetables. So when I heard about this book, and I've always kind of wished I would have done it, it was intriguing, and it should be intriguing to you too. See, I don't want to risk eating pesticide-laden vegetables, and it's a value to the well-being of myself and my family to eat better, to eat right. Her book can be life-saving. Before I even bring her out, and I'm going to bring her out soon because we only got 30 minutes, so I'm going to bring her out soon, but I always start off with a scripture, and for today, it's Genesis, and it's Genesis 1, chapter 1, verses 29 and 30. And it says, "Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed on it. They will be yours for food." So what this young lady is doing is scripture. It's sustenance, it's scripture, it's eco-friendly. I mean, she is just doing so much. So before I bring her on, I want to read her quick bio. And she did do a quick bio. She's so humble. She's doing so much more, and she only put like a few things in here. So I'm going to read it. This is directly from her as if she were talking. It says, "Hello, I'm Kayce Collier. She's a Chi-Town girl with a passion for gardening. It all started when she was watching her grandmother grow a peach tree from a pit in her backyard garden. She said she loved going over to her house, and she always had flowers growing in her backyard and cacti growing inside. She said her grandmother taught her many nuggets of wisdom about plant and garden care. One of her favorite pieces of wisdom is to let water sit for a day before using it on the plants. This allows any impurities to evaporate out of the water." Now, did you know that? I didn't know that. This lady's going to give us nuggets. You guys listen and tell a friend to watch. Ever since then, her love for cultivating plants has only grown stronger. These days, she says she's lucky enough to be able to enjoy the benefits of greenhouses, which give her more control over her growing environment. She said gardening allows her to escape the chaos of everyday life and reconnect with nature, something that is so important for our well being. I am so excited to share my passion, she says, for gardening with readers through my books. So maybe she has more than one book. She said, when I'm not in my home garden, I'm in my school garden because she's an educator and she cultivates young minds. Then she closes and says, I hope that you enjoy my books and grow a bountiful harvest. Help me welcome what she didn't say. She is an educator with an advanced degree, a facilitator, a trainer, assistant principal. Her master's was in childhood education and teaching, a prolific member of Alpha Kappa Alpha and the National Coalition of Black Women in leadership roles. So help me welcome this young lady that's so humble. Help me welcome Kayce Collier.
Oh wow, I'm gonna take you with me everywhere. Like
no, you're all that. I'm like,
oh man, that is such a wonderful welcome. People, we just living our little lives, and I just feel like if a little bit of what I can do can make other people happier and better, then that's all we want. So thank you for that wonderful introduction. Oh my gosh, I'm impressed with myself now.
What you're doing is scripture and it's life-changing. I mean, think about for the person, the families. I want to get right into it because I know your time is probably very tight because I just want you guys to know she's doing the circuit. She's finally getting into book signing and doing the circuit, so she has a lot of engagement. So I'm going to move it along. First of all, I think I may know, but what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I did share. It's my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Grandmothers are what they are. Like your secret safe space when you're a little girl, right? Like you get to like your place of wonder where you can just be. And her home and the things she grew and just what she was an inspiration to me. And so I thought a lot about it over COVID, So you said I did a lot. And, I think a lot of people, we were busy doing. And all of a sudden we had to be still. Yeah. Right. And I felt that stillness in the earth, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was quiet again. Mm-hmm. And not to mention, I still had to go to work. So I 90 miles an hour down Dan Ryan because there was no traffic. I had never seen it in my life.
I remember that. Yeah. I loved it then.
That's an aside. I was so happy that day. But the inspiration is really having to find something to do other than busyness, right? Like doing different things and really just having your space, right? Our own space to do it in. Wow. And so, what can you do? How do you deal with that? How you deal with all the drama, even though it's quiet, it's still drama going on.
Yeah.
And I just really found that growing, like you read the scripture and it really is, it just meant so much to me because it's that growth that I needed in myself. You find that connection back to just peace, right? Like just being able to see it and cultivate it and make it happen is peaceful, and it still gives you that kind of sense of accomplishment. So got back into gardening over COVID, mm-hmm. and then decided that, hey, I should put these things down. And when I started thinking about putting it down, I started doing a lot more research, right? Around, because we have a lot of mother wit.
Right.
And it's important for us to understand the actual scientific basis for that mother wit that we have, because there is basis for it. So I did a lot of research. Actually, a greenhouse wasn't what I started with, but I got into it because it was cool. You get to control things a lot more. So I really loved it. And finally sat down and got that book done to get it
How
out.
long did it take you to do it?
Well, I did it actually over the summer. I'm on hiatus from education. Uh, Gave my babies what I had, taken a little break. And as I took my break, I was like, you know what? This has been on my heart. So over about 3, 4 months, really trying to get it written and then editing, like writing it is actually not the hardest part. It's everything after that that makes it a process. But it was a good process. I really enjoyed it and thought about a lot of people, met some new people, found out some new things. So it's a very worthwhile endeavor.
How did you find the time? You've said that you took a hiatus from education, possibly, but you still have other things going on. I know you're a leader, and I mean, I know without bragging too much. And if you're ever on again, and when you write your second book, I'm going to brag a little more. But how did you find the time to write the book, particularly with your other obligations? Because in leadership role, sometimes it's time consuming.
What's funny is that quiet time, I would say between 5 and 7 o'clock, nobody AM, nobody calls my phone. I know that's early, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to waking up, so my body will just wake up and it's still quiet at that time and nobody wants me on the phone. Like literally 7 o'clock, my phone starts popping, right? If I have something going on. So really getting up and just you don't have to. You're at your house, so you don't have to do anything. You can just roll out of bed and whatever you roll out of bed in. If you want to throw on a something, you can. You just pull that computer out. Kind of reread what you read, think about where you want to go, and start writing. Start writing. Start writing, whether you like it or not. Like some of the stuff I wrote didn't work and you get rid of it, but it's really that quiet time in the morning, and you once you get into a rhythm you can get a lot done between 5 and 7 when nobody wants to talk to you. It's a good time.
That is a good time. That is a good time.
It
I'm going to give a
is.
shout out to some people that have said hello. Hello, Carol. Hello, Qdell. All you other people that are on there, say hello. Say hello to her. This woman has done something phenomenal. Just say hi. I won't
Hello,
embarrass
guys.
you. Just say
Hello.
hi. Is this your first book? Because I noticed that you said books plural, or are you working on something else?
So I'm working on my second book.
Yay.
Yes, this is my first book. And I plan to write more books. I'm looking this way because I have it with me, of course, my lovely
Mhm.
book. But I plan to write more books in gardening. It won't all just be about greenhouse, but it's all going to be environmentally friendly. We may do some container gardening. My father keeps being like, "No, are you talking about just containers?" And I'm like, "Okay." Hmm.
There's something called container gardening. Gardening.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's just not. Let's. That's actually what my grandmother did. I would go out on her balcony. So if you can garden in the ground. Your father probably tilled the soil,
He
right?
did in the ground, right?
Yeah, in the ground. So my grandmother had a two flat, and
Hmm.
her backyard was concrete over. So she had pots all over and a little space around the fence that was open that had ground that she could grow in. So she took pots, containers, and grew all kinds of beautiful plants. It was like it was a beautiful place. So people do that. If you have a balcony, so say you don't have a house where you could put something up or anything. That's Cherie. Hi, Cherie. Uh, I love her. I'm glad you're here, Cherie.
Hey, Cherie.
Cherie Scott. Yes, but so you can have containers where you grow these
That's
things.
what I thought.
Oh, see, I'm glad
You
she.
know what? The phone is talking.
I'm glad she agreed. I'm
Oh
glad she
my
agreed.
gosh. Let me hide her. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the next book will talk about more if you don't have a big backyard, if you just have a smaller space that you're working in, container gardening, you can load up your balcony with pots. You can grow food in those pots. You can grow
Really?
tomatoes. Like you don't have to have ground. You just have to have a big enough pot so that you can accommodate all the roots for the plant.
So, do you grow plants that you consume daily? Do you freeze them? Do you? What do you do?
So, initially when I grew them, and you have this big harvest, and then you just got all this food that you can't eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you
Mm-hmm.
try to eat as much as you can, but you can't eat it.
Right.
And so one of the things that's in the book is this idea of succession planning, right? And so instead of planting 20 tomato plants, you
Okay.
plant one, and then 4 or 5 weeks later you plant another one,
Ah,
and then 4 or 5 weeks later, and so then by the time, so you harvest one, you can eat that food, then the next one will come into harvest, you'll eat that food, and then you're also using a smaller space. So say you only have a little plot of
right.
land in the back of your house, you use that space, and you're also always rotating the food that you have,
Mm.
because I mean it's fun to have a lot of food, but you can't eat it all.
Right. You
And
can't eat
then
it all.
you're giving it away, and then if you don't give it away and you leave it too long,
Yeah.
now
You gotta
fresh
get it.
food will last longer, but eventually it spoils.
Right.
So succession planning, and it's in the book, is one of the things that I started moving to, so that I didn't have because it's just me. So I didn't want to have a whole lot of food all at one time. I rather have food, a little bit of food here, a little bit of food there, and you spread it out over a period of time.
Now you just kind of got reacquainted with gardening recently. Did you do it? Have you been doing it off and on throughout your
Mhm.
life?
Mhm. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Off and on. Like I did a lot of container gardening in the past, because I haven't always had a space where you can have a greenhouse. But so I've done a lot of that in the past, and really just wanted more of a challenge. I like challenges. I'm one who was like, what's the next thing I can do? See if I can do it. So I had grown beautiful flowers. So like my grandmother, you can get those flowers
Mm.
going, and my neighbors would love walking past. But then I was like, what if I could grow some food? And then that's the next thing that I got into. And so you just take all that knowledge, and you apply it to growing the food, because they're plants.
I think that is excellent. That is excellent. Now I want you to tell people. Normally I wait to the end, but
Mhm.
because people may want to know now, where can they get your book from?
So you can get it on Amazon.
Mhm.
And if it's hard to find on Amazon, I do have a website. It's kaycegrows.com. And actually, it's KACEY grows.com. And if
KACEY
Mhm.
grows.com. Okay.
KACEY grows.com, you'll go there, you'll see a picture of the book. You can click on it, it'll take you straight to the Amazon link.
Okay.
So it's really makes it easy. Makes it easy.
Does make it easy. Now everyone, I want everyone, now I know there's a person here that already has your book, because she's saying that she loves the book, she's so proud of what you're doing and all that. But for the rest of you, even people that are just curious, because I'm going to get on and buy it this evening, go to Amazon and purchase this. It's easy to find on Amazon. If I found it, you can certainly find it. Go and purchase this book. Even if you don't want to do vegetables, which you probably will down the line, think about the flowers and the plants and just the beauty and the life. It is just, this is wonderful. Now, when you say greenhouse gardening, when I think about a greenhouse in my limited knowledge, I think about this big area outside of your house that's encased. And what if you live in Chicago and you don't have all that land?
Well, the great thing is they come in all sizes. You can get I actually started out, my first greenhouse was what's called an IKEA greenhouse, because I am the consummate doer. And I'm looking at it now. So basically you can take an IKEA cabinet. They have it like a curio cabinet, little
Mm.
glass curio cabinet. And I added, what did I do? I changed out the shelves so that they were more like, I just went to Amazon. They were more like baker's rats.
Mhm.
So when you water the plant, the water can come out. I changed that out. I added fans and lights. So you add a grow light, fans, and it's like zip tied. I wish I could show you a picture of it. It's like zip tied with some fans and some lights. And then I put a seal on the door, and that was my first greenhouse.
How big is it?
It's little. It's a little gosh, I think it's not even big as these two these two pictures behind me. It's just a little like 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot all the way around, something small. And you put the fans in because you have to have the air circulation. In any greenhouse, you would do that. And you have your lights, which is easy. It came with a little hole in it. And so it's so easy. You just take they sell where you can screw the lights in and you get a plant light, you screw it in, you hook it over there, and you've got lights. It's so easy. I'm telling you, it's not rocket science. And they've got tons and tons. Like, so I investigate things. So you can go into Facebook and type IKEA greenhouse. You can go online and type IKEA greenhouse, and it'll come up. You'll get all kinds of blogs on it. But that was my first one. You can do that. As you get, you want to do different things. One of my good cousins loves finding low cost plants at the shop. And she says she's going to get into growing her own seeds. And so if you don't have a lot of space, one of the ways you use a greenhouse is to start your seeds, right? Because you can, hi, Carol. But you can start your own seeds, and you get a small one. It just leans up against your back wall. Make sure it can get some sun. It'll have some shells. You can get it for like maybe $100, maybe less. And you put your seeds in your starting cups, and all of that information is in the book. And you set it outside, and it gets the sunlight, and it gets to grow. And so now you've paid for a $1, $2 pack of seeds.
Right.
And you will have, if you want to grow flowers, if you want to grow, I always say tomatoes, because that's what everybody loves growing in Chicago. Tomatoes and, different things like that. You can start it. But I like to press the easy button. I do go to the store and just buy me some plants when I need to, if you don't start your seeds. So you can do both things. But having it there helps you kind of create that little environment where you can give it more humidity, more heat, because it's enclosed now, and that's what the plants need. And that's what really a greenhouse does. It gives you a perfect environment. Now you have to create it, but it gives you a perfect environment, and you don't have as many, what my grandmother would say, plant some for yourself and some for the animals, right? So when you had a garden outside, when it's outside, everybody lives, all animals live out there. So they're going to want some of your food too. But if you have it in a greenhouse, it's a little more protected from that kind of thing.
So that makes sense for my next question, because in the book you're talking about you can do it year round. And I'm thinking, okay, in Chicago, how can we do it year round? In the greenhouse.
So the key to year round having food is to grow a plant to maturity. So it's like green leafy plants. So we're talking about things like different kind of lettuces, and they have cold hardy plants. So different type of lettuces, actually the greens that we love to eat are sweeter in the winter. And that's because when it's cold, it changes the starch inside of the plant into sugar. Okay. And so summer greens are bitter, but winter greens are sweeter because that coldness changes them a little bit. So you want to start your winter garden in September, and you grow your plants so that they're pretty mature by the time it gets cold, right? Once it's cold, and when it gets really cold, you don't really water them. You let them stay, but they're big enough for you to eat off of. They'll continue to grow. They'll continue, not grow, but they'll continue to live throughout the winter, and you can eat off of these plants through the winter. But you have to grow them kind of to maturity by about November. Well, nowadays, who knows when it's going to get cold in Chicago? God, it might be warm tomorrow. But the other thing you're looking at is sunlight. So you want at least 10 hours of sunlight for your plants to grow. And in Chicago, you're cutting it close by the time you get to November.
Right.
So you grow them late August, September. Then by November, they're pretty mature. And now you're just maintaining them throughout the winter.
And all this is included in your book.
So this is that's the last chapter. Most of the book is about gardening throughout the year, and it's the typical spring, summer, that kind of season. But You can you can garden in the winter. You just have to plant it and figure out a way to keep your plants from freezing. And we have plants that they can get cold. And like things like carrots, I didn't know carrots are sweeter. Even if your carrots and it's snow on top of the carrots and they're in the ground, those carrots when you pull them out won't be dead.
That's true.
But they'll be sweeter than the ones that you would pull out, say at the end of the summer if you were harvesting them. So it's an interesting concept, but you see how God works.
Yes.
In the winter, you can have good food for you that's healthy for you.
Did you guys hear that? In the winter. That's what I wanted to know about, because I'm like, how is this going to work in the winter? But you're right. I remember going out to the garden with snow and frost over it, and it tastes even better. So you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the first step? Go ahead, finish.
Well, I was saying when you have a greenhouse, so when it's outside, it's cold, right? Like, so now you're freezing trying to get it done.
Right.
But if you have a greenhouse, it kind of helps you so that you're not as cold to get that stuff out of the ground and continue to be able to eat it throughout the winter.
Yeah, because a greenhouse contains it after you have it at a certain maturity. Smart. What's the first step for a novice? Someone who knows nothing about it, nothing at all, and kind of apprehensive, if they want to start, other than buying your book, because that's the first thing. That's the first thing.
To buy a book. You know what? If I was a novice, I would start with containers. You know, so if a greenhouse is really for somebody who gardens, and now I don't want to be done in August. I want to keep growing, right? Like, so I want to be able to do this longer. If I was a novice, I probably would start by trying to grow things in a pot or in a little piece of ground. There are greenhouses that you think of that are big and beautiful, and it's the pretty double pane glass. But then there's also greenhouses where they take treated plastic over hoops and they cover it up. And you see those in those more industrial ones. So they're not these big, pretty ones, but they have a hoop and they take that plastic and they pull that plastic over it, and you have a greenhouse, right? They have greenhouses or what they call raised beds. So sometimes people will build up their planting area so that it's not a pot, but it's in a little square piece of land. But now I've put wood all around it, so it's up higher, right? Okay. And it's called a raised bed. And then you can take that plastic and you cover it. You take the hoops, you put it over there, you cover it to give you some protection. A lot of times they give you protection from maybe the pests that are out there, because at a certain time your plants may be more susceptible to pests and different things. So there are a lot of ways you can do it. But if I was just starting, I would get a pot with some soil. I might grow me some lettuce. I would get some starter things. You know what I mean? Something that's really simple, because lettuce has a very short growth cycle. So they'll be mature very quickly. And then when you pull the lettuce, you pull it from the outside in, right? So that you're not tearing up the plant. You take it from the outside in, and then that way the plant will keep growing for you.
That's interesting. Did all you beginners hear that? And if there's any beginners that listen to the rebroadcast, you better just backtrack and listen again. That's interesting. That's something I'm going to try doing, because I'm just wondering about gardening. So this is really good. You've answered just about all these questions.
How about, the other thing I would suggest if you were starting, I would do some strawberries. Strawberries? Because, those are, now, because strawberries are one of the most pesticide-ridden fruit, right? So they spray those strawberries from the beginning to the end. And if you think about it, they're very delicious. So we like them. So do all the bugs. So do everybody likes them. They like them.
They're good.
So if I was starting out, because you'll find strawberry plants if you go to any of like the garden centers around the city, or any of the big box garden centers like Home Depot or something like that. And I like that because it's kind of like a nice return, right? So if you grow them and you have some strawberries, you feel like you've done something.
Are
And
they
then,
easy to grow though? Strawberries
oh yes.
seem like they would be delicate. Strawberries, okay.
No, you just, if you water your plants, give them some sun and protect them from bugs, you will have some food. That's all you got to do. It's put it out in a little pot. They give you a little strawberry pot. You put it in there. Make sure you water it. You got to check your plants to make sure no bugs are coming, because the sooner you see it, the easier it is to deal with. So you don't want pest or anything. But they flower, and then they grow fruit. And they have some that grow really quickly, and those are like, you can get those in the spring. Those are like spring plants that will bloom if you start in June, because that's usually when it's warm enough to maintain. You'll have strawberries by July.
Now
Yeah,
that's a quick return. And I
yeah,
love strawberries.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
are right. They are pesticide ridden. Yeah, you're
Mm-hmm,
right.
mm-hmm.
Speaking of bugs, even with green, like leafy decorative plants,
Mm-hmm.
how do you keep the bugs out? How do you those little flying things?
Yes, yes. There's so many of them.
Is there
So
anything that you can do to spray on it just to make sure they don't come?
now I'd be careful with sprays. When I
Mhm.
first started, I went and had, because I didn't have, well, I did have white flies. I had some white flies, but then also you have to worry about caterpillars, and so moths and all kinds of things,
Mhm.
like they will lay their eggs in your garden, and then you'll look up and you'll be like, well, who is eating my leaves? Like, who is eating it? And so I had one. I named him Bubba. I put him in the book too. He was caterpillar. I was like, oh, look, a caterpillar. It's not a good thing. You don't want caterpillars. So when I went to try to find like a pesticide, what you do when you read it, you'll find those pesticides will kill your bees and your butterflies too. Okay. So it's really like, I just let Bubba live, because I was like, I don't want it so much that I'm gonna kill the bees and the butterflies. Look like we struggling with that as it is.
Oh my gosh, you're worried about killing bees and butterflies. But I get it. I get it.
Do you know why you have? If you don't have bees, you don't have food.
If you,
Oh yes, so pollinators. So in order for you to have strawberries, the bees that go from flower to flower,
because they
that's
probably
how
that's
you
true.
get a fruit. That's the sex. That's the
That's how they okay.
yes, that's the pollination. And so you have to have bees, butterflies, flying things to pollinate your plants that flower. Any plant that flowers, squash, I think tomatoes flower. Any flowering fruit or vegetable, it's usually a fruit if it flowers, even if it seems like a vegetable. You have to have pollinators. That's why you can't really grow fruit in the winter, because you have to have somebody to come out, unless you want to take your Q-tip and go, and try to go into and go plant to plant.
No.
Um, yeah. So you do not want to kill the bees.
And I just think of bees as being a pest. I never think of
Oh
the
no.
pollination end of it, but you're absolutely right.
Oh, you don't want to do that. And that's why I did an eco-friendly book, because we think of bees and
Ugh.
different animals like that, and we don't understand what role they play in the food web and the food cycle and how we get food. And so now bees, people are concerned about having bees out there, because we've done a lot. I'm looking at this question: what's the best way to store summer vegetables for winter usage? Okay, I'll talk about that. But yes, so that bee population, we've done some damage to them. So we need to be cognizant of any kind of pesticides, and like mosquitoes. And I have a cousin who sprays his backyard for mosquitoes. And no, he doesn't have mosquitoes, but if you kill all the other beneficial life out there, it makes a difference. And so one of the things that we try to do in the book is think about, it's called companion planting.
Hmm.
And so you can take your vegetables and add different plants to where they're at, to repel animals or repel bugs and different pests. You also, if you're doing it over several years, you want to rotate where you plant different plants, using the same word two different ways.
No, but that's smart though. That's smart.
Because what happens is anything that's left from that plant. So if you did have spider mites or something that came in and they said, "Oh, we see your tomatoes," if you plant them back there, the spider mites are
They're
there.
going to know.
Yeah.
Right. So you trick them or so. Yeah.
Yeah. So you move where you plant them so that you're not doing the same thing in the same place and letting the pests know that you do that. Now, Van said, "What's the best way to store summer vegetables for winter usage?" Van, I try to eat my vegetables, but I know I do. I have a lot of friends who do a lot of canning for their vegetables to try to keep them fresh. I know a lot of friends who've tried to freeze them, but not all of the vegetables freeze well. And so the people who had the best results are into canning. And that's not a book I can write for you.
Not yet.
Not yet, but you know what? I might take it on as a challenge. So give me a year. And then by next year, I'll have a book on canning for your vegetables.
You got another question here.
Suggestions for good containers. You know, it depends. You have to look at the package and look at what you're growing. And so some vegetables have short root systems. Mm-hmm. And so you don't need a deep container. But then there's some vegetables who have a deep or long root system. And so the best thing I would do is, especially if you're thinking about your spring planting, I would decide what do you want to plant and then do some research, right? Like you need to know the best way to get the best results is to know what that plant needs, right? You have to create the environment through which they'll grow the best. So if you want to grow okra, if you want to grow different vegetables, do some research on what those vegetables need. The other thing I have in the book is there's some vegetables that grow better when they're together. There's some vegetables you can flavor, like if you grow herbs with certain vegetables, you can flavor that vegetable a certain way because of the growing together. But then there are also some vegetables you shouldn't grow together, right? And so I've got a couple of charts in there that talk about the best vegetables to grow together, the best flowers to grow around your vegetables because you want the pollinators. And the pollinators are attracted to bright, colorful flowers, right? That's why you get so many bees if you have a garden because they're attracted to that color. So you plant some pollinators around your garden. You plant different herbs and vegetables to go together so that you can create some flavors or enhance the flavors that your garden has. And those are some ways. And you plant some plants to repel bugs. Like the scent will mask and repel different pests that might come to your plants. So that companion planting is really, it was a fun chapter to write. I did a lot of research on that one.
This has been a real education for me. I don't know about anyone else, but this, you know how you take so many things for granted and so many things like what you said about the bees and pollination. I mean, we all learned that in what, third grade, fourth grade, but you don't think about it. You think about bees are going to sting me, so I want to get rid of them. But everything is here for a reason. And you so eloquently laid it out, and everyone should purchase that book once again. And I know I've went over your time. Once again, tell them how to get your book again.
You can go to Kayce Grows. That's KACEY grows.com. That's my website. You just click on the book. It'll take you straight to the Amazon link, or you can go to Amazon and search for Greenhouse Gardening with Collier attached to it, and it should come up.
And it does.
The book, it's $2.99 for the digital version, and it's $9.99 for the print version.
Everybody get that? $2.99 for digital, $9.99 for the print. Talk about a value. We want to support her because we want her to write more books, and we want to be able to eat healthy and grow beautiful plants. Is your house, I'm just curious, is your house like full of plants all over the place?
Oh my God. Let me see if I can. So this is just, let's see, am I going to get you to the right corner? So this is one corner. And those
I knew it. I knew you would have a lot of
plants. And then I have plants on the table that I'm sitting with.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I have, I had to downsize because after a while I was like, okay, Lord, you can only water so much. You know what I mean?
That's a job, taking care of them.
Yes. So yeah, my house is filled with plants. It is.
Any final comments? Because I know I went a little bit past your time, but it was just so interesting, and you giving all these little nuggets, and I can't wait to start reading the book. But see, I'm very lucky because I can just hit you up and say, hey, what about
You can
this?
call me if you need some help. Absolutely.
And I'm sure I will.
I think the only thing I would say is, we think we can't write books or we don't think about writing books. But, writing books is easier than you think. Mhm.
Mm.
Writing books is easier than you think. And I know my girlfriends have so much knowledge. And the gentleman I know, we need to get our books out there and get our thoughts out there. So I would encourage anybody who has a hobby or an insight or something to write a book on it and get it out there because you can do it.
Now, this is the last question for real, because I know when you wrote the book, was it therapeutic for you? Did you just feel like you were letting something out? I know you're giving something to the world, but how did it feel to you?
It was, once you take it on as something to do, it becomes, oh my God, I got to get this done. But it was great to see. It's like growing. It's like growing a plant. It was nice to have this idea and grow it into reality, right? Like, so you went from here, I had this idea for a book, and then like I got a book sitting in front of me. Like, how did that happen? You know what I mean? Like, did I really do that? So it's exciting to make something that's in your head come into fruition. And that's why I encourage people to do it. Just do it.
That
There's
is
so many people out there who
beautiful.
have wonderful things to share with this world. So do it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much again for coming on. And, I'm going to invite you back to the show when you write the other book, because I know I feel it coming. I don't know what it's going to be about, but I feel something coming. This book is going to blow up. I'm telling you, I'm not the only one interested in gardening. So, you're just getting started now doing, all the different shows and having your book openings and all this. So I wish you well. I wish
And
you well. It's so well deserving.
yeah. And I just thank you for the opportunity. That is also the hard part is getting out there in front of people. And so it's just so nice to be a part of this group of people who are also supportive of the work that you do. You just don't know how much I was like, really? You want me? Um
I'm like,
so
yeah.
right. I was like, really? So I just have to thank you and all of you who have supported me and who support Janice. Like, it makes a difference for people who are out there trying to make their dreams come true. And so, yeah, I appreciate it. I really do. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kayce. It's been a pleasure. And since I know you, I can kind of, pick up the
Yes,
phone
you do.
anytime. So you take care of yourself, and thank you for being on Intellectual Radio Voices of Change. We appreciate you, and everyone saying thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Oh man, she was fabulous. And I have been so curious about that for so long. I am just so I can't wait to get this book. I'm going to order it now, and hopefully you will too. You will order the book now too. I want you guys to order it too, because we're going to be in this together. We're going to start doing right by the plants, doing right by our vegetables, even maybe trying to do some fruit. I mean, we may even try to do that. Now, I only have a few more minutes left, and normally I do the news you can use at the top of the hour, but today I did it at the back end, and that's only because of that wonderful, great guest I had. I was just so excited about learning about gardening, and once again, I regret that I didn't learn when I had the opportunity to learn when it was right in front of me, but it's never too late. And like she said, my sister tells me this all the time. We have so many great ideas, and we should put it in a book. And she said that too. I had no idea she was going to say that, and she said it too. So I think if anyone has something to share or any ideas, think about writing a book. So we only have a few news stories before we close out, and I want to start out with something positive. He's back. He has been emancipated. Not sure if any of you seen the show Emancipation, but when I heard about Father Mike Flager being, should I say, being emancipated, that's what I thought about. I saw the movie yesterday. I thought it was pretty good. So encouraging you to watch that. But Cardinal Blaise Supage announced Saturday that he has reinstated St. Sabina Catholic Church pastor, Father Michael Flager, following sexual abuse allegations. In a letter to the St. Sabina parish, Supage said the review board has concluded that there is no reason to suspect Father Flager is guilty of these allegations. Father Flager shared the reinstatement letter on his Facebook page with the captions, like MJ said, "I'm back." Father Flager is asked to step aside from the ministry back in October after a man in his late 40s filed a claim with the Archdiocese saying that he was abused while he was a member of the So Children of Chicago in the 1980s. I know the guy feels like a target. He probably feels like a target. What in the world? He probably feels like a target because this is the second time in 2 years that there was such an allegation. Anytime someone can just say that, it's their responsibility to stop and check. But man, it just seems like he's a target. So I'm glad he's back. He was in the pulpit today, so that's exciting. The entire basketball world was absolutely delighted to learn about Brittany Griner's release from detention. After nearly 300 days in a Russian prison, the WNBA star has finally come home to the United States after the government was able to successfully negotiate a prisoner swap with the Kremlin. Now that was good news. A lot of people didn't feel that it was such good news, and some people felt that there have been people over there for a longer time, and that they should have been released first. And they also felt that she was released because of who she was. The lady was there 10 months. I'm just glad she's home. The next story, this has been a hot one for the past week and a half. When GMA3, Good Morning America 3 co-anchors TJ Holmes and Amy Robach have been temporarily pulled off the air, it's reported that news anchor DeMarco Morgan will now step in to host the third hour of Good Morning America as producers scramble to figure out what the heck else to do. The commotion, however, is not due to the fact that they've chosen to replace Holmes, who they decided to replace with him, but the thing is who they decided to replace him with. Currently working as a weekday morning newscaster for a CBS affiliate out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Morgan once was a popular morning anchor in Los Angeles. But if you're wondering why he looks so familiar, some say he looks like TJ Holmes. Well, I saw the pictures. I saw a couple pictures of him. He does favor him a bit. Man, he's definitely eye candy. But I don't know. I don't know if he favors them as much as everyone says. He looks like, they're twinning, and I don't think he looks that much like him. The 44-year-old Morgan has volunteered with Big Brothers Big Sisters, the American Cancer Society, the NAACP, and Sweet Alice Harris. He has also served on the board of managers for the YMCA and is an active member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. And anytime you've seen pictures of him, you would know because he always sits there with his three fingers like this. The city of Earl, Arkansas elected Jalen Smith as mayor in Tuesday night's runoff. This makes him the youngest Black mayor in the country at just 18 years old. He ran on a platform of better transportation and public safety. That is really good to hear. 18-year-old elected mayor. He just graduated from high school. Kudos to him. Black voters had their say. Warnock, the senior minister of Martin Luther King's Atlanta church, echoes traditional liberal notions of the Black experience, and Walker, a University of Georgia football icon, speaks the language of white cultural conservatism and mocks Warnock's interpretations of King, among other matters. Raphael Warnock's victory Tuesday over Republican Herschel Walker in Georgia's runoff is exactly what the Democrats needed. We lost Christy Alley this week. She has been a household name for years, starring in hit shows like Cheers and Veronica's Closet. She also appeared in plenty of now classic movies like It Takes Two with Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen, and the Look Who's Talking franchise with her good friend John Travolta. Sadly, on December 5th, the actor's members revealed that Ali had died, which shocked most people, seeing as no one knew she was even sick. She was suffering silently briefly. It was silently. She didn't want anybody to know but her immediate family. And she didn't have it for a long time, but she passed away of colon cancer, and she will certainly be missed. And that's my quickie news you can use. If I'm going to look and scour for comments, I'm going to take a quick break and probably play something quickly. If you have anything that you want to say or any comment, you can say it now. When I come back, I'll certainly read it. I'll be right back.
Hallelujah. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. It's over. It's all right. It's all right. Oh, yes, it is. Somebody wave your hand and say, it's over. It's all right. It's all right. Oh, yeah. No matter what you're going through, God will. God will see you through. It's over. Yeah. It's all right. Have faith. It's all right. It's all right. I know you may be sick in your body, but have faith. It's all right. It's all right. No matter what you're going through, I know God will. God will. Yeah. It's all right.
Just a little encouragement for you to start your week. I know you know who that is because we have a monthly show, but just wanted you to have a little encouragement, knowing that, it is the holidays. A lot of people are going through a lot of things. It could be trying times. You're just trying to do everything, but just know that you have someone who's walking this walk with you, and life isn't static. Life always change. I don't see any other comment, so I'll be back next week. I'm going to be interviewing another author, so I'm excited about that. So we will see you next week at 6 p.m. on Intellectual Radio's Voices of Change. Have a blessed week.